Go ahead and shoot.
What do you think? Did you ever expect a shootout?
A little bit, but nothing like what you saw in terms of that score. I didn't expect that. At halftime, it wasn't out of the realm of normalcy to think it would end up like that. But it's also interesting because at halftime, I'm in the locker room and I'm telling the guys, defensive coaches first and then the defensive players. I was so tremendously proud with how we played on defense. And, you know, we're sitting there and it's 21-21. And I thought special teams and offense in the first half, just even though there were scores, just put the defense in a really tough situation. However, one of the most interesting stats of the first half that never gets recorded unless some random guy like Io notices it, and that's in the first half, every time there was a score from San Diego, there was a matching score. And a lot of people in football say, points are points. I don't believe that. I think there's a rhythm to how and when people score and then how that leads to the next score. So to match a stop with a stop and or a score with a score, which happened, allows you to be in a locker room and say, guys, everything that could have gone wrong, a blocked kick, just everything, right? Turnover on fourth down, a punt by our offense that was the longest play I've ever seen in my life. I mean, the thing must have taken 28 seconds, and I was like, man. And then all of a sudden he keeps going, but it was wild. But proud of the way our guys responded, very proud.
Yeah, and then you didn't even know what they were gonna do with that punt after there was gonna be a penalty, but nobody knew what the heck it was.
Right. Yeah, no, we didn't. But I also thought that I thought they were absolutely going to come after it at the end of the game on that punt. And that one surprised me a little bit because they didn't have timeouts. But they moved the ball beautifully. They really did.
As a coach, weird stuff starts happening early on, like, Andrew with the muff punt, unexpected. Do you maybe think I'm going to have to coach this game a little bit different?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
100%. And I think it's not just we have to coach this game differently. The players have to be tactile enough to be receptive to playing the game differently. And case in point, I love our league because not only is it so tremendously diverse from coast to coast and border to border, but it's so tremendously diverse with the types of teams that you get to play, probably in part because of the recruits that they get when they go coast to coast, border to border. But you play Davidson, and you better get ready for 7 or 8 possessions each for the whole game. And you flip on the film here and you say, man, you're going to have 14 possessions. So to that point with Andrew, not to say that it wasn't a big mistake. It was a huge mistake, a horrible play. But you still have much more runway in that game to be able to get yourself right. So if you don't do it, you're chasing your bad emotions for way too long of a time.
Yeah, Glenn, most teams today that win a toss defer. You took the ball today. Was that because you suspected this might be a high-scoring game?
It is because we made a mistake. I don't know how to say it other than that. We made a mistake. We wanted to defer, and all of a sudden I turn around and we're taking the ball, and it's like, hey, that's life, man. Let's go. Take the ball. That's a God's honest truth. I mean, I don't BS you. Interesting. 8th game. What?
You haven't won a toss.
We finally won a coin toss.
And then you lost.
That's 1 out of 288, and then we screwed it up, right? So we weren't in a position. I was almost ready. If we would have lost this one, I was going to go into the next game. And even if we won it, I was just going to tell the captains, just ask the other team what they want to do. Because it doesn't seem to phase us one way or the other. But no, we were going to play defense, although I will say it was not the intention to take the ball early. It was, I could see how teams would want to not have their offense on the field. So had we won the toss in Davidson, we would have taken the ball there, too. So there's times where we do that, but I would say you play 11 games a season. If we won every one of them, in general, 7 of those are probably going to be a defer situation. A lot of it has to do with the wind, but that was a mistake.
McElroy had a pretty good comeback from his blunder.
I would agree, and I think I was just talking to his dad. Everybody's going to make the blunder. It's, do you have the mental toughness to stick your foot in the ground and make a stand and make it right? And I know we speak in microcosms a lot, but I do believe that is who we are as a program, who we recruit as a staff, and who our players are on Saturdays.
How'd you get that kid?
So Andrew was out of Bolingbrook, Chicago. the south side of Chicago. And his junior year, you can ask him, he'll be in here, and maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but not much. He was 5'9", 153 pounds, and, you know, bony elbows and knobby knees. And then COVID hit, and he lost his senior year. And all of a sudden, 18 months went by, and JD brings his film in and says, hey, we got a guy I think we need to take a look at. And he comes in, he's 6'3", 189 pounds, and he's a blessing. He still has room to grow, as you can tell, but he has a strange, if you watch him in the open field, he doesn't seem fast, right? And that's true if you just look at him with the naked eye. But he also doesn't get caught very much, right? And so that's because of how smooth he is. It doesn't look, you know, when I go out there with my little Tasmanian devil legs, it looks like I'm, you know, going a million miles an hour and I'm not moving anywhere, right? But he's such a glider, and he's so athletic. And as you saw a couple guys today, Wesley Juzak, Jacob Wildermuth, they caught the ball on the other side of their body, which allowed them, like that's not stuff we were doing 2 and 3 and 10 years ago a lot. And so Coach Dotson has done just an amazing job with the entire receiver corps. But again, this league really pushes us because we flew home on that plane last year from San Diego, losing a game that we never thought we'd be in. But the fact that we were in it and we lost it still upset us, right? And knew that we had to change our receiving corps and commit in a different way to growing that corps. And it worked.
Did the same kid play quarterback against you last year?
Yeah, number 8 did. Real, number 11, was a transfer in who actually, neat backstory, but Coach Landry, our quarterback's coach and offensive coordinator, came to us from Temple, and that's where Real was from before he transferred last year. So he coached him, and they had a neat relationship too. But 8 did, and they actually pulled him from the game last year. So we had 4 interceptions. 3 of them were brought back for touchdowns. One of the ones that was brought back for a touchdown was brought back because of a block in the back. So defense scored 14 points, offense scored 10. When we were up 24-14 against them early in the third quarter, they pulled him, same quarterback, and they put another guy in, and that worked for them in that game. But yeah, he's the same guy.
They figured out how to use Mitchell, though.
Right? And we figured out how dynamic he is because I just told him outside, you know, you watch film and you know how fast and twitchy he is, but you kind of figure, and maybe it's us making ourselves feel good, okay, he can beat you this way and this way, but he probably won't beat you this way and this way. He beat us in every which way but loose today, inside, outside, and throwing. And they had a really neat little double pass. I could see it in his eyes, and it didn't hit. They ended up, the quarterback didn't have a good handle on it. He had to pull it down, but very, very good football player. There's no question about it, number 11.
Is that the best crew of offensive talent you've played in this league, would you say? As far
Yes.
as the talent of the offensive guys?
I would.
The skill position?
I would. Yeah. Cam, what'd you think?
Glenn, you're sitting in first place right now in the league. You got 3 games to go. Which of, and I know you don't really like to look ahead, but it seems as if you're.
I don't really like to look ahead, Pat, or I don't like to look
You don't
ahead.
like to look
That's
ahead.
fair. That's true.
But, I mean, clearly, the 2 teams in this conference that were probably most people consider your the biggest competition.
I understand.
behind you. How do you keep guys focused and on task against these last 3 opponents?
We've had the privilege of pressure for the last decade and a half. That's one of the crosses that we've had to bear for a long, long, long time that is paying us dividends. So it doesn't surprise you, nor should it shouldn't surprise you. It doesn't surprise them when every game you're just going to get that target on your back is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And we say all the time, I mean, there's pressure and there's stress, right? Pressure is what's applied to you. Stress is how you internalize it. There's a global pandemic in this country because we're not doing a very good job. And I am a child of someone who dealt with that directly, okay, of not being able to handle the pressures and not let them turn into stressors. But I will tell you this, one of the things I love and I'm grateful about is that our young men, we might fail, we fail all the time, but we're never going to try and reduce the stressors by eliminating pressure. We're not going to do it. We're going to take on the risk. We're going to meet it. We're going to try and grow. We're failed. Last year versus this team, we failed. I don't know how else to put it, but you overcome it. And I'm proud of the guys for having the mental toughness to be able to not try and ignore the fact that you're going to get everybody's best game. And Pat, I'm not down. I understand what most people would say, but most people aren't the head coach of the University of St. Thomas football team. So, I know what I think, I know what they think, and that's what I really focus on.
Did any of your lads come over to the sidelines after a couple of those plays defensively and have that, like, what the hell was that?
Yes.
You know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, all game long. And that's not fair to say.
No.
Most of the game, but in the third quarter, and hats off to the officiating crew. Once again, I mean, these crews that we get, they control the game, they handle the game, but they allow the game to be played out by these young men. And, there were a couple times, like, the eyes got big on the sideline, and we had to, thank goodness it was a 14 possession on each side game, because we kind of found our new homeostasis about halfway through the third quarter. But it did last. Those looks lasted for 2.5 quarters.
We did kill some time running the ball in the second half after,
We did.
like you usually do.
We did. We didn't think as a staff we would quite have that type of success when people knew we were running the ball. And it wasn't just with Cade. I thought Coach Landry and the offensive coaches, even though we're on defense, if there's a timeout, sometimes I flip over and I just, like a little fly on the wall, I listen to the conversation, and then I talk whenever, I feel like I need to talk. And I love the process. I love how our offensive staff is growing throughout the game, because the chances of a team showing up to game day versus us and defending us the same way that we've seen on film for the last 2 months is about a 10% proposition. About 1 out of 10 teams is going to play the game against us on Saturday from 12:04 to 3:04 the way they've done it all year long. There's always a different wrinkle. That's a privilege of pressure too. And so we have to be systemic enough and thoughtful enough to be able to figure out how we need to run it. And that third quarter is exactly what happened there. It's very, very delicate.
Are there things you need to fix on special teams, or was it just one of those bad days?
It's a very nice way to ask a leading question that you already know the answer to, right? You're a genius about it. Of course, Sarah. I mean, Ryan Seaver. Ryan Seaver has been the belle of the ball, right? And he is doing an amazing job for us. But when you're put in a position and you don't take a 6-inch step, like you need to take a 6-inch step, and a good athlete who's a good football player and tough is able to get by you, that punt's going to get blocked, right? So as we talk about playing freshmen, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, he's a freshman, because for the last 4 weeks, you guys have been writing about all the punts he blocks, right, and all that kind of stuff. But what we have to understand is that every apple ripens at a different time. Like, we have to blossom into the people that we were intended to be. And sometimes when we have success as a freshman, we think, oh, he's got it. But that was one of them. The second one that you guys might not have noticed, excuse me, but I did, and Colby Gartner noticed it too, is our snaps on PATs were atrocious today. Atrocious. And I love Jack Franson.
Holder deserves a game ball.
He is absolutely going to be, he's the specialist of the week, there's no doubt. Like, we didn't vote on him as a coaching staff, right? But the way that he was able to take that snap, and he's the guy that makes up, because we got a guy who's been here 8 weeks, and Steven Shagan from, Park City, Utah, who's out there kicking for us and only a second start, and he did an amazing job. But those snaps were bad, so that's a bad part of it. The offensive formation punt, that 28-second play we talked about, that's one that we kind of take. I mean, look, we got 6'9", 315, and 6'7", running around instead of linebackers. We take that risk on. Obviously, there was a missed block in the back. I'm very, very happy that Matt Wyman was not injured on that play. It should have been at the 8 or 10 yard line, and that was missed. It's unfortunate, But if you take that one out of it, there's still plenty of things that we have to do.
We got some players here too.
Real quick, I will say Steven Shagan, if you've been watching our kickoffs, that has been a point of contention in the first month of the season. And the second month of the season, he's really come on to place the ball with the depth and the time and the hang time that we need. And like anyone else, just grateful that they run. But you're going to get a chance to talk to Cade Sexauer and to Johnny Bunce and Andrew McElroy yourself. And if you want to fact check me on any of the stuff, those guys will shoot it straight. Okay, thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Start with Andrew. Obviously, you started the game off on a bad note with the muff punt, but you made up for it. Did you just tell yourself, I've got a lot of game to go, and I'm just going to forget about that and move on?
Yes, sir. Muff punt on my first time touching the ball this game just wasn't the best, but every play is a new opportunity, and I knew that, I understood that, and so did my brothers. So everyone made sure I was stayed up, and then a couple plays later, it turns all around. So yeah, that was good.
Did they kept trying to single you out there on that one-on-one thing all day long, even when you burned them? That was really-
Yes, sir. They stayed in their same coverage all day.
That didn't make you happy.
Yes, sir.
Cade, it was such a crazy game. Did you kind of sense that early on and know that it was going to probably be that way the rest of the way?
Yeah, I mean, the first half definitely didn't look like St. Thomas football, I'd say, in special teams and definitely on offense. So we could kind of tell, like, maybe today wasn't the normal day we might have. But really, after halftime, I think we kind of came together and said, a lot of crazy things have happened, but we still got to be ourselves. So kind of riding the wave through the whole day, but like Coach Caruso said, it's going to be a long game. We're going to throw the ball a lot. They're going to throw the ball a lot. So just got to keep our head up and just keep working through it.
Jonathan, defense played better than the score would indicate. Did you kind of feel like at halftime that, it's not going to be as bad? I mean, we're going to be able to make up for what took place in the first half?
I think there were definitely in the first half, I think going into halftime, we felt really confident overall defensively. There was a lot of mistakes that we had to clean up, but with, minimized field position, I think we did a good job. Obviously in the second half, there were 2 to 3, probably even more explosive plays that just kill you and really hurt, but the offense really picked us up and we were able to fire back in like 2 or 3 plays a couple of times, which is huge, and they just kept giving us opportunities to make plays and get the offense off the field to get them back on.
As a team, were you guys aware of 11, how dynamic he was?
Yes, we game planned for him coming in. We knew what he was going to be able to do. I mean, he's just an athlete, and I don't know. We'll have to watch the film. I can't speak for specific plays without being able to watch them. But I mean, when you don't fit it up right, he's a kid that can make you miss and take it all the way and set up a 12-yard gain. It's all of it.
Jonathan, that last defensive series, what were you guys, was there anything in particular, particularly with Mitchell, or any in particular you were looking for? Was someone trying to spy him or keep an eye on him?
No, I think in that last-minute scenario, we're playing to. I mean, they're playing against the clock as well. They are the field position. So, we have we run so much different stuff that they're getting different looks on every play. I don't think they're getting the same coverage 2 plays in a row ever. So I think we did a good job of mixing it up, putting different guys on them, and quarterback not knowing, are we going to be in zone? We're going to be in man? Are we going to have a linebacker on the running back?
As your coach said, that punt where we picked up the punt and went through everybody, that was the longest play in the history of football.
Felt like
None of
it.
you guys were on the field, right? Or whether you do it on the sideline.
I made the tackle on that play. So I tossed it, and then we punted it.
Really?
And then I think Andrew just about got him down, and I was like, uh-oh, I think I'm going to have to make the tackle here. So I ran across the field, tried to pop the ball out because he had the ball in the arm towards the field, but couldn't get it out.
So when did you finally get him in your sights then?
He probably around the 40, he kind of crossed this way. I had to get out. Someone tried to block me, and then I kind of ran him back down towards where'd they get 20 or something. So
This is for any of you guys. you guys are going into November 7th, unbeaten in the conference. What is it about this team? On paper, the stats aren't off the charts. You don't have a ton of turnovers gained like last year. Well, how would you just quickly describe what's the chemistry or what's going on with your team that puts you guys in this spot?
Sure, I can take it. I'd say one thing about us, we don't quit. We will play the whole game and understand that some games will be longer than others, but every down, we are together, we are for each other, and doing the best we can.
Yeah, I'd say we play for each other. When the defense isn't playing well, we got to pick it up as an offense. When we're not playing well, they pick us up. And I mean, I think we've played from down the past 3 games. Before that, we played up almost every other game, and I think it's just we stick together through thick and thin.
Yeah.
Andrew, did you really go from 5'9" and 153 before COVID to what you are now? That's what the coach says.
Excuse me?
Size-wise, were you actually 5'9" and 153 as a junior?
As I was recruited, yes, I was. Yes, I was on the small side.
What did you do during COVID to grow like that? Work out every day?
I did, but it just out of nowhere and just turned to 6 foot, then 6'2", then 6'4", like it just kept going.
You're 6'4"?
Yeah.
Jonathan, I think it was you earlier in the year that you talked about this being the playoffs, winning a conference because you don't have a playoff possibility. Is that going to keep you guys focused these next few games? Because a lot of people think you beat the 2 best teams in the conference, and now it's going to be easy skating the rest of the way.
Yeah, that's definitely not the sentiment on the team.
Yeah.
I think we know the 3 opponents we got next are some of the toughest opponents on our schedule. And Valpo beat San Diego, and Butler beat Valpo. So we know the teams we got coming up are really, really tough opponents, and we have to play great football games to win. And I think, early in the season after Davidson, we didn't want to peak, and we didn't want that to be the climax of our season. And I think with the work we're doing in practice and in games, that's the goal, is that next week is better than this week. We're not going to rest easy on having a win. There's a lot to work on, and yeah, we're looking forward to it.